The untold story of Nahum, the prophet of Nineveh's destruction. The land of Judah trembled under the Assyrian yoke, an empire whose shadow spread like a plague over nations. In a small town called Elkosh, south of Jerusalem, lived a man whose name was destined to resonate through the centuries. Nahum, meaning the comforter. His name came from the Hebrew Nahum, and although little was known about him, his voice would rise like thunder against the most fearsome city of his time. It was the 7th century before Christ, a time when Assyria had reached the zenith of its power. The prophet Nahum carried out his ministry between 663 and 612 before Christ, a period when the whole world seemed to bow before Assyrian might. For generations, the Northern Empire had crushed its neighbors with unprecedented cruelty, plundering their wealth and enslaving their peoples. Nahum was not a palace man, nor did he belong to the priestly elite. He was a simple Israelite who loved his people and suffered seeing the oppression exercised by the Assyrians. Every morning, upon waking, he heard travelers' stories about the atrocities committed by the northern invaders, and his heart shrank with pain. One night, while sleeping under the stars of Judah, Nahum had a vision that would change his life forever. In it, the God of Israel manifested himself in all his majesty and power. He saw how the Lord rose up as a divine warrior, prepared to do justice against those who opposed him. The voice of the Almighty resonated in his ears like the roar of 1,000 storms. "Rise, Nahum of Elkosh, for I have chosen you to pronounce my judgment against Nineveh, the city of blood." Upon awakening, Nahum knew he had been called to a mission that few had dared to imagine, to announce the fall of the greatest military power of the ancient world. It was not a call he could ignore, for he felt the weight of the divine word burning within him like an inextinguishable fire. With fear and trembling, but with unshakable determination, Nahum began to prepare for his mission. He knew his words would not be well received, that many would label him crazy or a traitor. How could a simple man from Judah prophesy the fall of an empire that had dominated the known world for generations? However, in his heart burned the certainty that God was with him. The same hand that had led Israel through the Red Sea and brought down the walls of Jericho would now rise against Nineveh. And so, armed only with the word of the Lord, Nahum the Elkoshite prepared to announce divine judgment upon the most fearsome of empires. Nineveh, the jewel of Assyria, stood imposing on the banks of the Tigris River. Its walls formed a circumference of about 12 kilometers, and within them rose palaces and temples that seemed to challenge heaven itself. It was a city of contrasts, as much beauty as cruelty, as much wealth as iniquity. War had benefited the merchants of Nineveh, whose numbers rivaled the stars of heaven. Booty came to the great city in unimaginable quantities, and its shops overflowed with all the luxury items the world could offer. There is no end to the storehouses, an abundance of all sorts of valuable articles, the prophet Nahum had declared. But beneath this mantle of splendor lurked a much darker reality. Nineveh was a city thirsty for blood, which devoured its neighbors, only to return with booty and treat captives with brutal cruelty. Assyrian kings boasted in their own annals of mutilations inflicted on prisoners, of humiliated countries, and of confiscated treasures. In palace halls, Assyrian nobles celebrated each new conquest with banquets and feasts, while in dungeons, thousands of prisoners groaned with pain and desperation. It was a bloody city, full of violence and prostitution, as the prophet would later describe in his writings. With all its ferocity, Nineveh was exceptionally religious. An entire pantheon of gods filled its temples, many of them imported from Babylon. The names of Assur, Sin, Shamash, Raman, Bel, Nabu, Astarte, Ninib, Nergal, and Nusku resonated in priests' prayers and monument inscriptions. But these deities had not taught the Ninevites compassion or justice. King Ashurbanipal, who reigned in Nineveh in those days, had brought the Assyrian Empire to its maximum splendor. Under his rule, Assyria had conquered Thebes, the great city of Egypt, in the year 663 before Christ, proving that no fortress was impregnable to its might. In the streets of Nineveh, Assyrian soldiers marched arrogantly, their shields and armor gleaming under the desert sun. War chariots, with wheels reinforced with iron, thundered over the cobblestones, sowing terror among inhabitants and reminding them of the king's absolute power. The city had etched itself into humanity's memory for little more than murder, plunder, suppression, and rape of the weak, for war and all kinds of physical violence. Its name was whispered in fear in the tents of Bedouins and in the palaces of vassal kings. A century and a half earlier, the prophet Jonah had been sent to Nineveh to announce its destruction, but the people had temporarily repented, and God had spared the city. However, the Ninevites had returned to their old ways, and now did even worse than before. Their repentance had been superficial, like morning mist that dissipates with the first rays of the sun. Now, as Nahum contemplated in his vision the magnificence and wickedness of Nineveh, he knew that the time of divine patience had come to an end. The God of Israel, slow to anger but great in power, would rise to do justice. The city of blood was about to face its judgment. Nahum sat under the shade of a fig tree, with a scroll of parchment unfolded before him. His hands trembled slightly as he dipped the pen in ink. The words he was about to write were not his, but from the God who makes mountains tremble and seas dry up. The burden against Nineveh, he began to write. In his mind resonated the scenes of the vision he had received, God emphasizing his great power, showing his superiority over all Assyrian gods. It was not an easy message to convey, and even less to receive for those who believed themselves invincible. In the distance, Nahum could see the hills of Judah, that land he loved so much, and which for generations had suffered under the Assyrian yoke. How many times had he heard the lamentations of widows whose husbands had been massacred by Assyrian soldiers, or the sobs of parents whose children had been taken as slaves to distant lands. But now, the prophet felt a strange comfort in his heart. Precisely because of the meaning of his name, the Comforter, Nahum would become the bearer of hope for his people in a particularly dark time, seeing in the fall and subsequent ruin of Nineveh a sign that God had not abandoned Israel. With each word he wrote, Nahum felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He was not a court prophet, recognized and respected by the powerful. He was a simple man to whom God had entrusted an extraordinary message. Who would believe that Nineveh, the invincible city, would fall as predicted? As the pen scratched the parchment, Nahum described the majesty of the Lord. The Lord is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. The Lord has his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. Nahum made extensive use of the divine warrior theme, the image of God as a military figure who made war against those who opposed him. As he advanced in his writing, the prophet began to detail the judgment that would come upon Nineveh. He described how the city would be attacked by an army with shields and chariots, how enemies would enter through the city gates and defeat it, looting all the silver and gold they had. Nineveh's chariots would burn, and its people would be destroyed. But it was not a message of simple vengeance. While prophesying about the future, Nahum also spoke of how God would break the yoke over Judah, probably the great annual tribute they had to pay to the Assyrians. It was a message of liberation for the oppressed. As evening fell, Nahum rolled up the parchment and contemplated the horizon. The sun was setting over the hills of Judah, tinting the sky blood red. It was a reminder of the judgment to come, but also of the hope that would be born from the ashes of oppression. With a heart full of a mixture of fear and confidence, Nahum kept the scroll containing the divine vision. He knew his words would provoke mockery and disbelief, but he also knew that each one of them would be fulfilled in its time. The God who had spoken through him was the same who had divided the Red Sea and stopped the sun over Gibeon. His word would not return empty. The Ninevites used to tell themselves, "I am, and there is none besides me," a statement that reflected their excessive pride and limitless arrogance. They considered themselves invincible, protected by their gods and their walls, which rose toward heaven as a challenge to any enemy who dared approach. Nineveh was compared to a den of lions, where Assyrian kings, like insatiable predators, tore their prey to feed their cubs. The prophet vividly described it. "Where is the dwelling of the lions, and the feeding place of the young lions, where the lion, the lioness, and lion's cub walked, with no one to make them afraid? The lion tore in pieces enough for his cubs, killed for his lionesses, filled his caves with prey, and his dens with flesh." From the walls of Nineveh, sentinels constantly observed the horizon, watching for any sign of danger. But they did not really fear any enemy. Who would dare challenge the mighty Assyrian lion? Their armies had conquered entire nations, from the shores of the Mediterranean to the mountains of Iran, from the deserts of Arabia to the fertile lands of the Nile. In the royal palace, King Ashurbanipal reclined on his throne of gold and ivory, surrounded by courtiers who flattered him like a living god. In many ways, Nahum's poetry gave vent to anger, expressed the relief and hope of all who had long been oppressed. It was the cry of the oppressed against their ruthless oppressors. Nahum saw in Assyria's fall an example of God's hand, which with his justice severely punishes all enemies of good, while mercifully and patiently preserving those who try to do good. It was not a message of personal hatred, but of divine justice. While Assyrian nobles enjoyed their banquets and concubines in conquered lands, millions of people suffered under their iron rule. The demanded tributes impoverished entire peoples, and any attempt at rebellion was crushed with a brutality that chilled the blood. In foreseeing the fall of this cruel and powerful empire, whose kings in their own annals boast of prisoners mutilated by them, of countries they humiliated and treasures they confiscated, Nahum described how the fate of the powerful and the wicked is decreed, deserved, and carried out. In Nineveh's markets, merchants exchanged goods from all corners of the known world: silk from distant China, spices from India, gold from Africa, wine from Greek islands. War benefited the city's merchants, who were as numerous as the stars of heaven. They prospered thanks to the suffering of conquered peoples. Temple priests offered sacrifices to their gods, imploring their continued protection for the city and its armies. But the God of Israel, the only true God, had already pronounced his sentence against Nineveh. Through Nahum, Jehovah had declared, "Behold, I am against you, says the Lord of hosts. I will lift your skirts over your face. I will show the nations your nakedness, and the kingdoms your shame." The shadow of the Assyrian lion extended far, but soon that shadow would vanish like mist before the rising sun. Nahum's message still held true. Decadence ends in destruction. Although the Lord is slow to anger, he is also great in power and will not acquit the wicked. In the lands of Judah, people groaned under the weight of Assyrian oppression. Each year, tax collectors arrived at villages and cities, demanding increasingly onerous tributes. Whoever could not pay faced terrible consequences: slavery, torture, or even death. For generations, Jews had endured the yoke of a wicked counselor, paying a large annual tribute that depleted their resources and broke their spirit. Families sold their lands, their animals, and even their own children to satisfy the insatiable demands of the Northern Empire. In Jerusalem, Solomon's temple remained as a symbol of Israel's unshakable faith, despite Assyria's attempts to impose its gods and idolatrous practices. Priests offered sacrifices and prayers, pleading for divine intervention against their oppressors. Nahum's prophecy was designed to bring hope to the people of Judah, who suffered the abuses of the Assyrians for many years. God cares for his people and will punish those who mistreat them. He will protect them, free them from oppression, and restore them. In synagogues and homes, elders told stories of how God had delivered Israel from slavery in Egypt, how he had defeated the Philistines through David, and how he had protected Jerusalem during Sennacherib's siege. These stories kept alive the hope that one day God would again intervene on behalf of his people. Meanwhile, at Judah's borders, Assyrian soldiers patrolled arrogantly, constantly reminding inhabitants who had the power. Any sign of rebellion was punished with a brutality that served as an example for others. Nahum's message was especially harsh. God, not the Assyrians, is the Lord of history. He can use nations for his own designs, but he is the only one who controls history and does not tolerate oppression. In the hills of Judah, shepherds watched their flocks while contemplating the horizon, wondering when the day of liberation would come. Some had heard Nahum's oracles and kept his words in their hearts, like a hidden treasure that gave them strength to go on. Just as God saved the Israelites enslaved by Egypt, so he would also liberate those oppressed by Assyria. This was the good news, which would be followed by celebration and thanksgiving. Among the exiles of Israel, those who had been deported to distant lands after Samaria's fall also circulated the words of hope spoken by Nahum. Although they lived among foreigners, they kept their faith and identity alive, dreaming of the day when they could return to the promised land. Nahum taught that God punishes violence, idolatry, cruel commercial practices, materialism, and cruelty. These were precisely the sins that characterized the Assyrian Empire and had caused the suffering of so many peoples. The cry of the oppressed had ascended to God's throne, like the smoke of a sacrifice. And now the Almighty would respond with justice and mercy, bringing down the oppressor and lifting up the humble. Nahum's word was like a balm for the wounds of the afflicted, a ray of light in the midst of the darkness of oppression. Nineveh prided itself on its defenses, considered impregnable throughout the ancient world. The city was proud of its invulnerability, with walls reaching more than 30 meters high and with a moat about 15 meters wide and 18 deep. What army could overcome such obstacles? The site of Nineveh was marked by two large mounds called Kuyunjik and Nebi Yunus, Prophet Jonah, as well as by the remains of its wall that formed a circumference of about 12 kilometers. Within this perimeter, the city buzzed with activity, secure under the protection of its formidable defenses. Assyrian engineers had designed a system of canals and gates that allowed diverting the waters of the Tigris River to create a natural moat around the city. In times of siege, this moat became an additional barrier for any invading army. The city gates, massive wooden structures reinforced with iron, were guarded day and night by armed guards. No one entered or left without being thoroughly inspected. Spies and potential saboteurs were executed immediately, often in especially cruel ways, to serve as an example. Atop the walls, watchtowers allowed sentinels to spot any suspicious movement kilometers away. Catapults and ballistae, the siege weapons of the time, were strategically placed to repel any attack. The inhabitants of Nineveh believed they would be safe behind these defenses, but fire would destroy them even in those places where they thought nothing could harm them. Their confidence in their own works had blinded them to the fragility of all human construction. Inside the city, arsenals were full of weapons, swords, spears, bows, arrows, shields, armor. Nineveh's army was formidable, with its war chariots that sowed terror on the battlefield. Assyrian soldiers were trained from youth in the art of war, becoming ruthless and efficient warriors. Architects and craftsmen had decorated the walls and gates with reliefs depicting Assyria's military victories over its enemies. These images served as propaganda and as a warning to anyone who contemplated rebelling against imperial power. But Nahum established the fact that the sovereign God would bring vengeance upon those who violated his law. The same God had a judgment of retribution against an evil that is also redemptive, bestowing his mercies upon the faithful. In his prophecy, Nahum had announced that Nineveh would end with an overwhelming flood, and it would happen when the Tigris River would overflow to sufficiently destroy the walls and let the Babylonians enter. This prediction seemed absurd to the Ninevites, who trusted in their flood control systems and the solidity of their walls. According to the prophecy, the disaster looming over Nineveh had no palliatives whatsoever. With an abundance of textual images, the prophet Nahum described the complete disaster. The fortresses would fall at the first shake, and the Assyrian army would be like a party of women soldiers, which represented a serious insult to warriors. The walls that were believed invincible were about to face their ultimate test. Nineveh's pride had led it to forget that no human work can resist when God has decreed its end. Like sand towers before the rising tide, the city's great defenses would crumble before divine judgment. Years before Nahum's prophecy, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, had invaded Judah with an army of almost 200,000 men. His war chariots had razed Jewish cities one after another, sowing destruction and death in their path. Jerusalem, under the reign of the pious King Hezekiah, had prepared to resist the siege. Walls were reinforced, a tunnel was dug to secure the water supply, and provisions were stored to withstand a long siege. From the walls of the holy city, defenders could see the immense Assyrian camp that extended as far as the eye could see. The tents of soldiers, the stakes of horses, and war chariots formed a temporary city around Jerusalem, like wolves surrounding their prey. Sennacherib sent his spokesman, the Rabshakeh, to intimidate the defenders and break their morale. With arrogance, the Assyrian emissary shouted in Hebrew so that everyone could understand, "Do not let Hezekiah deceive you, for he shall not be able to deliver you. Nor let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, 'The Lord will surely deliver us. This city shall not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria.'" But Hezekiah, instead of surrendering, tore his clothes and went to the temple to pray. The prophet Isaiah conveyed the divine response. God would defend the city for the love of David and his own glory. That night, something extraordinary happened in the Assyrian camp. As Nahum had prophesied, a divine intervention stopped Sennacherib's advance. According to biblical accounts, the angel of the Lord struck 185,000 Assyrian soldiers, forcing Sennacherib to withdraw, humiliated. Returning to Nineveh, the Assyrian king tried to hide his defeat, presenting it as a victory in the annals of his kingdom. He ordered reliefs built, showing the capture of Lachish, a city of Judah, but remained silent about his failure before Jerusalem. Nahum had announced that Sennacherib would die shortly after, and the house of his gods would become his tomb. While worshipping in the temple dedicated to the god Nisroch, Sennacherib's two sons, Adramelech and Sharezer, murdered their father as the prophet had prophesied. This event should have served as a serious warning for Nineveh. God's hand had clearly manifested, proving that not even the mighty Assyrian army could prevail against his designs. However, the kings who succeeded Sennacherib, Esarhaddon and Ashurbanipal, ignored these signs and continued with the empire's expansionist and oppressive policies. During their reigns, Nineveh reached the summit of its iniquity and bloody deeds. Meanwhile, in Judah, the memory of that miraculous deliverance fueled the hope of a future divine intervention against their oppressors. If God had saved Jerusalem once, could he not also deliver his people from the Assyrian yoke definitively? Nahum's prophecy would come to confirm this hope, announcing that the God of Israel had not forgotten his people. Sennacherib's fall was only the prelude to a much greater judgment that was coming upon the entire Assyrian Empire. In the villages and cities of Judah, the story of Sennacherib's miraculous defeat was told again and again as a testimony that the Lord of hosts continued watching over Israel despite its infidelities and weaknesses. That first warning had been ignored by Nineveh. Soon a second would come, and this time there would be no escape for the bloody city. In the year 663 before Christ, the known world shuddered at shocking news. Thebes, the great city of Egypt, had fallen to the armies of Ashurbanipal, king of Assyria. This conquest demonstrated that no city, however powerful, was invulnerable to Assyrian power. Thebes, known as Noamon in Hebrew texts, had been considered impregnable for centuries. Protected by the Nile and formidable fortifications, adorned with majestic temples and obelisks that seemed to touch the sky, the ancient Egyptian capital was a symbol of power and permanence. However, the city had succumbed to the relentless advance of Assyrian troops. Its defenders, despite their valor and number, could not resist the assault. Its treasures were looted, its temples profaned, its inhabitants killed or taken as slaves to distant lands. King Ashurbanipal made an inscription regarding the fall of Thebes. The entire city was looted under the direction of my officers. Gold, silver, precious stones, all the treasure of his palace, bright-colored garments, great horses, men and women, were taken to Assyria. For Nahum, the fall of Thebes acquired special significance in his prophecy. If the princes and merchants of Nineveh found the prediction of their own destruction incredible, then God's prophet reminded them to meditate on the fate of the famous Egyptian city. Despite formidable military force and despite its boasted impregnability, Thebes had been razed. In his prophecy, Nahum rhetorically asked the Ninevites, "Are you better than Thebes, that was situated by the river, that had the waters around her, whose rampart was the sea, whose wall was the sea?" The implicit answer was clear. If Thebes had fallen, what made Nineveh think it would be different for her? The irony did not escape Nahum. The same nation that had destroyed Thebes would face a similar fate. The instrument used by God to punish Egypt would in turn be punished for its own sins. Thus, divine justice worked in human history, like a fabric of causes and consequences, where each action finds its appropriate response. Spies and merchants traveling between Judah and Egypt brought chilling stories about Assyrian cruelty in Thebes. They told how soldiers had massacred priests on the very altars where they offered sacrifices, how they had raped women before the eyes of their husbands, how they had dashed children against stones. These stories, far from inspiring only terror, began to feed a sense of universal indignation against Assyria. Even among its own vassals and allies, secretly grew the desire to see the oppressor fall. Babylonians, Medes, Scythians, and other nations that had suffered under the Assyrian yoke began to dream of the day when they could join forces against the common enemy. Nahum used the fall of Thebes as a historical precedent, a tangible example that even the largest and most powerful cities could be overthrown. What had happened to Thebes would happen to Nineveh, but with a fundamental difference. While Thebes might eventually recover, for Nineveh the judgment would be definitive. In the streets of Nineveh, the constant roar of war chariots was a reminder of the military might that had led Assyria to dominate the known world. These chariots, with wheels reinforced with iron and warriors armed to the teeth, were the pride of the empire and the terror of its enemies. Day and night craftsmen worked in royal workshops, forging weapons, repairing armor, and building new chariots for military campaigns that never ceased. The sound of hammers on anvils mingled with the neighing of horses being trained for war. But in his prophecy, Nahum announced an unexpected fate for this powerful arsenal. "Behold, I am against you, says the Lord of hosts. I will burn your chariots in smoke, and the sword shall devour your young lions. I will cut off your prey from the earth, and no more shall the voice of your messengers be heard." The chariots that had brought destruction to so many nations would themselves be destroyed. Nahum described in detail how the last days of Nineveh would be. The city was going to be attacked by an army with shields and chariots. Enemies would enter through the city gates with their chariots and defeat it, looting all the silver and gold they had. Nineveh's chariots would burn, and its people would be destroyed. In the training field outside the city, Assyrian soldiers practiced the tactics that had given them so many victories. Discipline was fierce, and any sign of weakness was severely punished. Officers shouted orders, while recruits learned to move in unison, like a well-oiled war machine. But according to Nahum's vision, a day would come when this same army, famous for its fierceness, would flee like a group of frightened women, an image that represented the height of humiliation for Assyrian soldiers. Nineveh's blacksmiths were known for their skill in working iron, a relatively new material in weapons manufacturing. Assyrian swords, spearheads, and shields were coveted throughout the ancient world for their quality and resistance. Some vassal monarchs paid part of their tribute with iron, which was then transformed into the weapons that maintained Assyrian control over them, in a vicious circle of oppression. But Nahum warned that all these weapons would be useless when the moment of divine judgment came. In the year 612 before Christ, God's word through Nahum would be fulfilled when Babylonians and Medes allied to assault the city. The prophet also described how Assyrian warriors, who boasted of their valor and ferocity, would act on that fateful day. Their leaders would flee from the city like locusts. Those who had sown terror in entire nations would now know the taste of terror. In Nineveh's taverns, veteran soldiers told stories of their campaigns, of conquered cities and obtained booty. They drank and laughed, oblivious to the approaching storm. Alcohol, which flowed abundantly in these celebrations, would be one of the factors that would contribute to the city's fall, as Nahum had prophesied. Though they are entangled like thorns and drunken as drunkards, they shall be devoured as stubble fully dried. The roar of chariots, which had once been the sound of Assyrian power, would soon become the sound of its destruction, when enemy chariots entered through the breaches in its walls and traveled its streets, sowing death and desolation. While Nineveh delighted in its power and riches, oblivious to the prophecies announcing its fall, something began to develop beyond its borders. In the mountains of Media and the plains of Babylon, ancient rivals began to consider the possibility of an alliance against the common enemy. In the year 612 before Christ, Babylonians and Medes would ally to assault the city of Nineveh, as Nahum had prophesied. But before that moment arrived, a long process of secret negotiations and military preparations would take place. Cyaxares, king of the Medes, was an astute and determined ruler. His people had suffered for a long time under Assyrian domination, and now sought the opportunity to free themselves from that yoke. With patience, he had been rebuilding the Median army, adopting tactics and weapons that could successfully face the formidable Assyrian forces. In Babylon, Nabopolassar led a resistance movement against the Assyrian occupiers. The Babylonians, heirs of an ancient civilization, deeply resented their subjugation to what they considered a less refined and culturally inferior people. Their national pride, along with the desire to restore their ancient splendor, drove them to seek independence. Through emissaries traveling disguised as merchants, the leaders of Media and Babylon began to communicate and coordinate their plans. The alliance they forged was fragile, based more on shared hatred toward Assyria than on true friendship or common long-term interests. But for the moment, it was enough. In their respective territories, both leaders began to gather troops and manufacture weapons in secret. Assyrian spies, always vigilant, noticed certain suspicious movements, but the reports that reached Nineveh were arrogantly dismissed. Who would dare challenge the mighty Assyrian lion? Pride blinded the rulers of Nineveh, as Nahum had predicted in his prophecy. Meanwhile, other nations that had suffered under Assyrian rule watched these developments with interest. Scythians, Elamites, the kingdoms of Syria and Palestine, all waited eagerly for any sign of weakening of Assyrian power. Some began to send secret aid to the conspirators in the form of information, supplies, or even small contingents of troops. In Jerusalem, prophets and priests closely followed these political and military movements. For them, it was not simply a conflict between world powers, but the fulfillment of divine prophecies. Nahum had established the fact that the sovereign God would bring vengeance upon those who violated his law, that the same God had a judgment of retribution against an evil that is also redemptive, bestowing his mercies upon the faithful. Preparations for war intensified as time passed. Cyaxares and Nabopolassar refined their attack plans, carefully studying the weak points of Nineveh's defenses. They knew they faced a formidable task. The city was protected by walls reaching more than 30 meters high, and with a moat about 15 meters wide and 18 deep. No conventional frontal assault would succeed against such defenses. It was then that the Allies conceived a bold plan. They would use the Tigris River against the city itself, diverting its course to create a breach in the walls. It was a plan that required time, resources, and detailed knowledge of local geography. But if successful, it could achieve what seemed impossible: the fall of Nineveh, the invincible city. While these plans were woven in darkness, the words of Nahum resonated like a prophetic echo. Nineveh would end with an impetuous flood, and it would happen when the Tigris River would overflow to sufficiently destroy the walls and let the Babylonians enter. What military strategists planned as an ingenious tactic, the prophet had seen as an instrument of divine judgment. In the lands of Judah, Nahum's voice rose like thunder amid the storm. His words, hard as flint but full of divine authority, resonated in the ears of those who heard them, provoking a mixture of fear and hope. God is jealous and the Lord avenges. The Lord avenges and is furious. The Lord will take vengeance on his adversaries, and he reserves wrath for his enemies, proclaimed the prophet. The Lord is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. In many ways, his poetry gave vent to anger, expressed the relief and hope of all who had long been oppressed, and suddenly saw oppression ceasing and the oppressor moving away. It was a message of comfort for those who had suffered under the Assyrian yoke. For many, Nahum's words seemed too bold, even dangerous. How dare he prophesy the fall of Nineveh when Assyrian spies were everywhere, ready to report any sign of rebellion or disloyalty? Some feared these prophecies might provoke reprisals against Judah, but Nahum did not speak on his own initiative. As indicated in his writings, this book recorded the vision of Nahum of Elkosh. We do not know if Nahum wrote or dictated the words of the vision, or if someone else wrote them, but what is certain is that they came from a divine revelation. Nahum employed figurative language, literary images commonly used with the second coming of the Savior, to describe the future devastation of Assyria. This nation would be burned as easily as dry straw in a field. Here was another example of the prophetic dualism so common in the Old Testament. where concrete historical events served as figures of broader spiritual realities. In synagogues and public squares, scribes and scholars of the law debated the meaning of these prophecies. Some interpreted them literally, expecting to see the fall of the Assyrian Empire in their days. Others understood them in a more spiritual sense, as a promise that eventually all evil would be judged and all injustice repaired. Rasmussen summarized Nahum's lesson with these words: "The final poem begins with a prelude about the evils of the oppressive city, Nineveh. Its lies, rapine, and plunder, its cruelty manifested in thousands of dead, its fornication and deceit, and the seduction of nations, all this is declared. Because of all this, the prophet says that it would come to be hated. But not everyone in Judah received this message with joy. The kingdom was divided into pro-Assyrian and anti-Assyrian factions. During the reign of Manasseh, whose pro-Assyrian policy the book makes a veiled criticism of, many considered it more prudent to maintain the alliance with Assyria, paying tribute in exchange for protection. For them, Nahum's words sounded like a dangerous incitement to rebellion. However, for those faithful to the God of Israel, Nahum's prophecy was a reminder that history was not in the hands of human powers, no matter how great they seemed. It was the Lord who directed the destinies of nations, using even the cruelest empires as temporary instruments of his will, before judging them for their own sins. Above all, Nahum was also a prophet, and saw in Assyria's fall an example of God's hand, which with his justice severely punishes all enemies of good, while mercifully and patiently preserving those who try to do good. Thus, Nahum's voice, like that of a watchman in the night, announced that the dawn of liberation was approaching, that the long winter of oppression would finally give way to the spring of restoration. It was a voice crying in the wilderness, preparing the way for a new chapter in the history of God's people. Nineveh would not fall simply for political or military reasons. Its destruction, according to Nahum's prophecy, would be the direct consequence of its own sins, which cried to heaven for justice. The prophet detailed these sins unambiguously. It was a bloody city, full of violence and prostitution. As C.W. Seram says, Nineveh etched itself into humanity's memory for little besides murder, plunder, suppression, and rape of the weak, for war and all kinds of physical violence. This reputation was not undeserved. Assyrian records themselves glorified the cruelty of their kings and generals. In the palaces of Nineveh, Assyrian monarchs had ordered carved in stone the accounts of their conquests. These reliefs, which decorated the walls of royal halls, proudly showed scenes of burning cities, tortured prisoners, women and children led in chains. What for other nations would have been cause for shame, for Assyria was a symbol of glory and power. Nahum taught that God punishes violence, idolatry, cruel commercial practices, materialism, and cruelty. These were precisely the sins that characterized Ninevite society and had caused the suffering of so many peoples under its rule. Violence was the pillar upon which the Assyrian Empire had been built. Their armies did not merely conquer, they sought to terrorize, punishing any resistance with calculated brutality. The Assyrians were pioneers in using terror as a psychological weapon, erecting pyramids of human heads in front of cities that dared defy them, to break the will to resist of their inhabitants. Nineveh used to devour a city, return with the booty, and treat captives cruelly. Thousands of people had been displaced from their homes, separated from their families, and sent to distant lands to serve as slaves or colonists in a deliberate attempt to destroy national identities and prevent future rebellions. Greed and corruption prevailed at all levels of Assyrian society. The city's merchants prospered thanks to the suffering of conquered peoples. Nineveh's shops were stocked with all the luxury artifacts the world could supply at that time. Meanwhile, in the provinces, Assyrian governors and officers squeezed the last drop of wealth from subjected peoples. Idolatry and perverse religious practices also abounded in Nineveh. There was an entire pantheon of gods, many of them imported from Babylon. The cults to these deities often involved immoral rituals, including ritual prostitution and, in some cases, human sacrifices. All this had led Nahum to ask, what opinion should we have of this city of plunderers, of a city whose inhabitants delighted in diabolical cruelty, of a proud and arrogant city that said to itself, I am, and there is none besides me? The answer was clear. It deserved destruction. Despite its wealth and power, or perhaps precisely because of them, Ninevite society was internally rotten. Moral corruption had permeated all aspects of life, from kings' palaces to slaves' huts. Justice had been replaced by the law of the strongest, and compassion by contempt for the weak. The Lord was going to humble Nineveh for these sins. Its people would be exiled, taken captive, while many of the children and men would agonize in pain until death. The punishment would be proportional to the magnitude of the crimes committed. Nineveh's sins had not gone unnoticed in the eyes of the judge of all the earth. The day of retribution was approaching, and when it came, neither all the riches nor all the armies of the Assyrian Empire could stop the hand of divine justice. The siege of Nineveh began in the year 612 before Christ, when the combined forces of Babylonians and Medes surrounded the city, as Nahum had prophesied. The siege would last 3 months, during which all kinds of tactics were employed, such as diverting the course of the Kosa River or attacking simultaneously on several flanks to weaken the Assyrian defense. At first, the Ninevites showed confidence. Their walls were high and thick, their granaries were full, and their wells provided enough water to withstand a long siege. They had endured similar attacks in the past and had always prevailed. Why would it be different this time? As Nahum had prophesied, the city was attacked by an army with shields and chariots. The combined forces of Medes and Babylonians presented a formidable spectacle, with their standards waving in the wind and their weapons gleaming under the desert sun. From the walls, defenders launched arrows and stones against the attackers, while priests offered sacrifices to the gods of Assyria, imploring their intervention. But as days passed, and then weeks, worrying signs began to appear. The Allies' military engineers had been working tirelessly on a bold plan to divert the river's course to create a breach in the city walls. They dug channels and built dams, altering the natural flow of the waters. Meanwhile, inside Nineveh, the atmosphere began to change. Alcohol flowed abundantly among the defenders, as Nahum had prophesied. Though they are entangled like thorns and drunken as drunkards, they shall be devoured as stubble fully dried. Discipline relaxed, and morale began to decay. With an abundance of textual images, the prophet Nahum had described the complete disaster that was coming. The fortresses would fall at the first shake, and the Assyrian army would be like a party of women soldiers. This prediction, which would have seemed absurd months before, began to materialize before the horrified eyes of the Ninevites. As the siege extended, conditions within the city deteriorated rapidly. Food reserves began to dwindle, and diseases spread among the crowded population. The rich and powerful could still afford to eat well, but for most inhabitants, hunger became a daily reality. Priests redoubled their prayers, sacrificing more and more animals in a desperate attempt to appease their deities. Some began to practice forbidden rituals, including human sacrifices, in their desperation to obtain divine intervention. Finally, after 3 months of siege, what Nahum had predicted occurred. A flood of the Tigris River made a hole in the city wall, through which the Babylonians entered. The waters, which for centuries had been a source of life and prosperity for Nineveh, now became the instrument of its destruction. The final attack came through the now dry riverbed. Enemy soldiers penetrated through the breach like an unstoppable torrent, overcoming inner defenses and bringing death and destruction to every corner of the city. As the prophet had announced, Assyrian leaders fled from the city like locusts, abandoning the population to its fate. Those who had sown terror in entire nations now knew the taste of fear, seeking to hide from the justice that finally reached them. The scenes that followed were of indescribable violence. The invaders, thirsty for revenge for generations of oppression, showed no mercy whatsoever. Temples were profaned, palaces looted, houses burned. Nineveh fell and was razed to the foundations. The Assyrian Empire came to an end when Babylonians and Medes divided its provinces. Thus was fulfilled, with terrible precision, Nahum's prophecy. The city that had mocked entire nations was now the object of mockery. The one that had plundered others was now plundered. The one that had shown limitless cruelty now received an equally ruthless treatment. Fire spread rapidly through the conquered city, destroying even those places where the Ninevites believed they would be safe. Flames devoured palaces of marble and cedar, temples adorned with gold and silver, the houses of nobles, and the huts of the poor without distinction. As Nahum had prophesied, Nineveh's chariots burned under enemy fire. I will burn your chariots in smoke, and the sword shall devour your young lions. I will cut off your prey from the earth, and no more shall the voice of your messengers be heard. Smoke rose toward the sky in dense black columns, visible from kilometers around. It was as if God's hand had descended to execute the judgment announced by his prophet. The statues of the gods, which for so long had received sacrifices and prayers, melted in the infernal heat, revealing their impotence before the God of Israel. The prophet Zephaniah had also announced this total destruction, and he will stretch out his hand against the north, destroy Assyria, and make Nineveh a desolation, as dry as the wilderness. The herds shall lie down in her midst, every beast of the nation, both the pelican and the bittern, shall lodge on the capitals of her pillars. Babylonian and Median soldiers advanced methodically through the city, ensuring that nothing remained standing. Nabopolassar and Cyaxares had waited a long time for this moment, and were determined that Nineveh would never rise again. Every building, every temple, every palace had to be destroyed as a symbol of the definitive end of Assyrian rule. In temples, priests who had remained offered frantic sacrifices, desperately trying to secure divine intervention. But their pleas fell on deaf ears. The gods they had served, Assur, Sin, Shamash, Raman, Bel, Nabu, Astarte, Ninib, Nergal, and Nusku, proved powerless before the catastrophe. In the royal palace, the last defenders fought with the energy of desperation, knowing there would be no clemency for them. Treasures accumulated for generations, gold, silver, jewels, works of art, were looted by the invaders, thus fulfilling another part of the prophecy. Take spoil of silver, take spoil of gold, for there is no end of treasure or wealth of every desirable item. Libraries, which contained thousands of clay tablets with all the knowledge accumulated by Assyrian scribes, burned like torches. Irony of fate. While many of these tablets hardened in the fire, thus involuntarily preserving part of this knowledge for posterity, the civilization that had created them vanished forever. In the streets, chaos was total. Terrified civilians ran in all directions, seeking an exit that did not exist. The cries of the wounded and dying mingled with the roar of flames and the thunder of buildings collapsing. It was the end of a world. Nahum had precisely foreseen this horror. She is empty, desolate, and waste. The heart melts, and the knees shake. Much pain is in every side, and all their faces are drained of color. Nineveh's pride had preceded its fall, as the ancient scriptures taught. When the last flames finally extinguished days later, little remained of what had been the most splendid and feared city in the world. The prophecy ended with a relentless epitaph. "Your injury has no healing, your wound is severe. All who hear news of you will clap their hands over you, for upon whom has not your wickedness passed continually?" Thus ended Nineveh, the bloody city, in fire and destruction, as the prophet of Elkosh had announced. The words of God, pronounced through Nahum's mouth, had been fulfilled with terrible precision, demonstrating once again that his word does not return void, but accomplishes the purpose for which it was sent. The destruction of Nineveh was not just the fall of a city, however important it might be. It represented the end of the Assyrian Empire, a power that had dominated the known world for centuries. Babylonians and Medes divided its provinces, inaugurating a new era in Middle East history. News of Nineveh's fall spread rapidly throughout the ancient world, provoking different reactions. For peoples who had suffered under the Assyrian yoke, it was cause for jubilant celebration. For allies and vassals of Assyria, it was a warning sign and a moment to reconsider their loyalties. The disaster that had loomed over Nineveh had no palliatives whatsoever. As Nahum had prophesied, the fortresses had fallen at the first shake, and the Assyrian army, famous for its ferocity, had fled like a group of frightened women. In Jerusalem, priests and prophets interpreted these events as a clear divine intervention. Nahum's message was limited to affirming that the faithful God had not abandoned Judah. The enemy would not prevail. The punishment was coming to an end. For the Assyrians who survived the catastrophe, a long period of exile and suffering began. Scattered, without leadership or resources, many would perish in the following years as victims of hunger, disease, or violence. Others would be absorbed by local populations, gradually losing their ethnic and cultural identity. The Babylonians, under the leadership of Nabopolassar and later his son Nebuchadnezzar, emerged as the new dominant power in the region. They would build their own empire on the ruins of the Assyrian one, applying many of the same policies of conquest and deportation, although with a different style and approach. Nahum had taught that God punishes violence, idolatry, cruel commercial practices, materialism, and cruelty. These were precisely the sins that had characterized the Assyrian Empire. Now, the new dominant power would have to decide whether to learn from the mistakes of its predecessors or whether to repeat the same cycle of oppression and eventual judgment. For the kingdom of Judah, Assyria's fall meant a brief respite, but not a definitive liberation. Soon, they would find themselves under the threat of growing Babylonian power, which would eventually destroy Jerusalem and take the population into exile in Babylon. However, even in those difficult circumstances, the prophetic word would continue giving hope and comfort to God's people. Nahum's prophecy was limited to affirming that the faithful God had not abandoned Judah. His message was that, just as God had saved the Israelites enslaved by Egypt, so he would also liberate those oppressed by Assyria. This promise of liberation transcended immediate political circumstances, pointing toward a deeper and more lasting redemption. The remains of Nineveh would remain hidden for centuries, until in the 19th century, archaeologists began to discover its ruins. Under the desert sand, the proud buildings that had once amazed the world lay reduced to rubble, silent testimony to the truth proclaimed by Nahum. God's judgment is inevitable for those who persist in evil and oppression. As dust settled on the ruins of what had been the most powerful empire of its time, the prophet's words resonated with renewed clarity. Decadence ends in destruction. Although the Lord is slow to anger, he is also great in power and will not acquit the wicked. With Nineveh's fall, a wind of hope began to blow over the lands of Judah. Nahum had proclaimed, "Celebrate, O Judah, your feasts, fulfill your vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through you. He is utterly cut off." It was time for the chosen people to lift their heads and look to the future with renewed confidence. The meaning of the prophet's name, Nahum, or the Comforter, now acquired full meaning. Precisely because of the meaning of his name, Nahum had become the comforter of his people in a particularly dark time, seeing in the fall and subsequent ruin of Nineveh a sign of hope. In Jerusalem, the temple was again filled with faithful who came to give thanks to God for liberation. Priests offered thanksgiving sacrifices, and Levites intoned psalms of praise. The smoke of burnt offerings rose toward heaven as a symbol of the renewed communion between God and his people. Nahum's message was very clear. Just as God saved the Israelites enslaved by Egypt, so he would also liberate those oppressed by Assyria. This was the good news, which would be followed by celebration and thanksgiving. The elders at the city gates told the young how the prophet's words had been fulfilled, thus strengthening the faith of new generations. The stories of Assyrian oppression and divine liberation were incorporated into the collective memory of the people, along with the exodus from Egypt and the conquest of the Promised Land. Nahum had taught that God punishes violence, idolatry, cruel commercial practices, materialism, and cruelty. Now, it was Judah's responsibility to learn from this example and avoid falling into the same sins that had caused the destruction of their enemies. In synagogues, rabbis interpreted the scriptures in light of these recent events, seeing in them a confirmation of God's faithfulness to his promises. Nineveh's fall meant the collapse of the Assyrian Empire, especially cruel and tyrannical with subjected peoples. It was an act of divine justice and at the same time of mercy toward the oppressed. Judah's merchants, freed from the heavy tributes imposed by the Assyrians, saw their businesses flourish again. Caravans again traveled commercial routes without fear of Assyrian soldiers, bringing goods from distant lands and taking Judah's products to international markets. Farmers cultivated their fields with renewed enthusiasm, knowing that the fruit of their work would not be confiscated by foreign tax collectors. Vineyards and olive groves, which for so many years had been neglected due to uncertainty and oppression, now received careful attention, promising abundant harvests for the future. Nahum had seen in Assyria's fall an example of God's hand, which with his justice severely punishes all enemies of good, while mercifully and patiently preserving those who try to do good. This principle remained valid, offering hope to the righteous and warning to the wicked. However, the most perceptive prophets knew that this period of relief would be temporary. On the horizon, the shadow of Babylon was already appearing, the new emerging power that would soon challenge Judah's independence. Nineveh's lesson needed to be well learned, because times of trial had not ended for the chosen people. Despite these clouds on the horizon, Nahum's message remained a source of comfort. God cares for his people and will punish those who mistreat them. He will protect them, free them from oppression, and restore them. This promise transcended immediate political circumstances, pointing toward a future and definitive redemption. Nahum, the man of Elkosh, had fulfilled his mission. His words, inspired by God, had announced with astonishing precision the fall of Nineveh and the end of the Assyrian Empire. Now, as he contemplated the events he had prophesied, he could verify that not one of his predictions had remained unfulfilled. The time of Nahum's activities had been deduced based on certain statements made in the prophecies. In chapter 3, verses 8 to 10, reference was made to the destruction of the city of Nahum, the Thebes of Egypt, as a fact already consummated. We know that Thebes was taken by Ashurbanipal, the Assyrian king, in the year 663 before Christ. Therefore, Nahum's prophecy must have been written after that date. Since this prophecy was about Nineveh's destruction, we know it must have been written before the year 612 before Christ, the date when the city fell. Therefore, we can assume that Nahum's ministry, with certainty, took place between the years 663 and 612 before Christ. During this period, the prophet had been an uncomfortable witness among his people. Since Nahum's prophecy developed around Jerusalem, it was probably a city in Jewish territory. There, surrounded by political factions divided between pro-Assyrian and anti-Assyrian, Nahum had proclaimed with courage the divine message without fear of possible consequences. Nahum was a poet. Seeing in vision the end of Assyria, he expressed in free and picturesque Hebrew the relief felt by his people. His literary style, rich in images and metaphors, served perfectly the purpose of conveying both God's majesty and the horror of the judgment that would come upon the oppressors. His book began with an acrostic, a stanza for each of the first letters of the Hebrew alphabet, a poetic structure that demonstrated both his mastery of language and the careful elaboration of his message. They were not improvised words, but a divinely inspired and artistically expressed oracle. Nahum's legacy would endure far beyond his time. His book would be included in the canon of Hebrew scriptures, forming part of the 12 minor prophets. Nahum consists of only 3 chapters, and each chapter emphasizes a particular theme regarding Nineveh. In chapter 1, Nineveh's destruction is initially declared, and God's great power is emphasized. Chapter 2 details the destruction that was to come. Chapter 3 provides details about various aspects of Nineveh's sin and its destruction. Throughout the centuries, Nahum's words would serve as a reminder that God is just, and that although he may delay in executing his judgment, he finally does justice. By studying what happened to the Ninevites in the days of Jonah and in those of Nahum, future generations would learn that when people turn away from sin, the Lord will forgive them, and that when they do not, they will be destroyed. As people studied the book of Nahum, they would also learn that God cares deeply for his people and will not allow their oppressors to go unpunished. They would also learn about the great mercy that the Lord shows to those who trust in him. Modern archaeology would eventually confirm the historical accuracy of Nahum's prophecy. In the 19th century, the French consul in Mosul began to search in the great mounds on the other bank of the river. The Arab workers he employed in these excavations, to their surprise, came upon a building in the mound of Khorsabad. Little by little, the ruins of Nineveh would return to light, mute testimony to the truth proclaimed by the prophet. Nahum's greatest legacy, however, would not be the historical details of his prophecy, however impressive these might be. His legacy would be the message that God, not human powers, is the Lord of history. He can use nations for his own designs, but he is the only one who controls history and does not tolerate oppression. This truth would continue to be relevant throughout the centuries, offering hope to the oppressed and warning to oppressors, reminding all that, ultimately, it is God's justice that prevails in human history. Nineveh's destruction was not simply a local or regional event. It was a lesson for all nations of all times. Nahum's message still holds true. Decadence ends in destruction. Although the Lord is slow to anger, he is also great in power and will not acquit the wicked. Assyria's destruction can be compared to the destruction of the wicked in any era. By studying the Ninevites in the days of Jonah and in those of Nahum, one learns that when people turn away from sin, the Lord will forgive them and that when they do not, they will be destroyed. This lesson would be repeated throughout history. Babylon, which had been an instrument in Nineveh's fall, would follow a similar path of conquest and oppression to finally be conquered by the Persians. The Persian, Greek, and Roman empires would also rise and fall, each leaving its mark on history, but none escaping divine judgment when their wickedness reached a certain limit. Nahum's prophecy was limited to affirming that the faithful God had not abandoned Judah. The enemy would not prevail. The punishment was coming to an end. However, the underlying principle was universal. God does not abandon those who trust in him, and finally does justice against oppressors. At a deeper level, Nahum had taught that history is not a blind cycle of nations rising and falling, nor is it determined solely by economic, military, or political forces. God, not human powers, is the Lord of history. He can use nations for his own designs, but he is the only one who controls history. Nahum taught that God punishes violence, idolatry, cruel commercial practices, materialism, and cruelty. These sins, which characterize so many empires and nations throughout history, are particularly abhorrent in God's eyes because they cause suffering to the weakest and most vulnerable. Nahum's prophecy also has an eschatological dimension, pointing toward a final judgment that will transcend all particular historical judgments. Nahum employed figurative language, literary images commonly used with the Savior's second coming to describe Assyria's future devastation. In the same way, the judgment upon Nineveh prefigures the final judgment upon all the forces of evil. For believers of all ages, the story of Nahum and the fall of Nineveh offers both comfort and warning. God cares deeply for his people and will not allow their oppressors to go unpunished. He also shows great mercy to those who trust in him. At the same time, the story serves as a severe warning against arrogance and oppression. Nineveh had said to itself, "I am, and there is none besides me," a statement that reflected its excessive pride. This type of pride, which leads a nation or individual to believe itself above all moral or divine law, inevitably leads to downfall. The lesson for nations is clear. No human power, however great, can defy divine justice with impunity. The same God has a judgment of retribution against an evil that is also redemptive, bestowing his mercies upon the faithful. The true greatness of a nation is not measured by its military or economic might, but by its commitment to justice, mercy, and humility before God. Nineveh's fall meant the collapse of an empire that was especially cruel and tyrannical with subjected peoples. It was an act of justice, but also of mercy for the oppressed. In the same way, all empires based on oppression are destined to fail, while those that seek justice and peace have the promise of divine blessing. In a world where the powerful continue to oppress the weak, where violence and injustice continue to cause suffering, Nahum's message resonates with urgent relevance. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knows those who trust in him. This promise continues to be an anchor of hope for all who suffer under the weight of oppression, and a solemn warning for those who exercise power without justice or mercy. As the centuries passed and the ruins of Nineveh lay buried beneath the desert sands, the prophecy of Nahum continued to resonate throughout history. What had once been the most magnificent city in the world was now just a memory, a testament to the consequences of unchecked pride and cruelty. But the lessons of Nahum's vision transcended time, speaking to generation after generation about God's sovereignty over the nations. In the decades following Nineveh's destruction, the people of Judah would face their own trials at the hands of Babylon. Despite the brief respite they enjoyed after Assyria's fall, They too would eventually face divine judgment for their unfaithfulness. In the year 586 before Christ, Jerusalem fell to Nebuchadnezzar, and many Jews were carried away into exile in Babylon. During those dark days of captivity, the writings of Nahum provided a source of hope for the exiles. If God had judged the mighty Assyrian Empire for its cruelty and injustice, surely he would also judge Babylon in due time. And indeed, just as Nahum's prophecy against Nineveh had been fulfilled with terrible precision, so too would the later prophecies of Isaiah and Jeremiah against Babylon come to pass when Cyrus the Persian conquered it in 539 before Christ. The pattern established in Nahum's prophecy that no empire, however powerful, is immune to divine judgment when it persists in evil, would be repeated throughout history. The Persian Empire would rise and then fall to Alexander the Great. The Greek Empire would fragment and eventually be absorbed by Rome. Rome itself, despite its seeming invincibility, would eventually crumble from within, its fall hastened by corruption and moral decay. In medieval times, as rabbis and scholars pored over the ancient texts, they found in Nahum's prophecy a timeless message about God's justice. The rabbinical commentaries emphasized how God had remembered his covenant with his people, even in their darkest hour, and had brought down their oppressors. These interpretations provided comfort to Jewish communities suffering persecution in various parts of the world. Christian theologians likewise found profound meaning in Nahum's prophecy. They saw in Nineveh's destruction a prefigurement of the final judgment, when all evil would be destroyed and God's justice would be fully revealed. Augustine of Hippo, one of the most influential Christian thinkers, reflected on how the rise and fall of empires demonstrated that only God's kingdom would endure forever. When archaeologists began to uncover the ruins of Nineveh in the 19th century, the world was astonished at the discovery. The British archaeologist Austin Henry Layard excavated many of the great Assyrian palaces and discovered thousands of tablets from the library of Ashurbanipal. These findings confirmed many details of biblical accounts, including elements of Nahum's prophecy. One of the most striking confirmations came from the discovery of relief sculptures showing the very scenes of violence and cruelty that Nahum had condemned. The Assyrian kings had proudly recorded their brutal treatment of conquered peoples, confirming that Nineveh was indeed the city of blood that Nahum had described. Archaeological evidence also revealed how the city had been destroyed by fire and flood, just as the prophet had foretold. In the modern era, scholars from various disciplines, history, archaeology, theology, and literature, continue to study the book of Nahum. They marvel at its poetic beauty, its historical accuracy, and its theological depth. The prophecy serves as a reminder that historical events can and should be interpreted not merely in terms of political or economic forces, but also in moral and spiritual terms. For people of faith in the contemporary world, Nahum's message remains powerfully relevant. In a time when global powers still commit acts of violence and oppression, when justice often seems distant, the prophecy reminds believers that God is still sovereign over the nations. The same God who brought down Nineveh watches over the affairs of nations today. The story of Nahum and Nineveh also speaks to the responsibility of those who possess power and wealth. The lesson is clear. Nations that use their strength to oppress others, that build their prosperity on injustice and violence, will eventually face judgment. True greatness comes not from military might or economic dominance, but from justice, mercy, and humility before God. Perhaps most importantly, Nahum's prophecy continues to offer hope to the oppressed and marginalized. Just as God heard the cries of those who suffered under Assyrian tyranny, he hears the cries of all who suffer injustice today. The promise remains, "The Lord is good, a refuge in times of trouble. He cares for those who trust in him. In an age of rapid technological advance and global interconnection, when human achievements sometimes seem to challenge the very limits of possibility, Nahum's prophecy serves as a humbling reminder. The Assyrians too believed in their own invincibility, trusted in walls and weapons that seemed impregnable. Yet all their might could not stand against divine judgment when it came. As scholars continue to study ancient Mesopotamia and the historical context of Nahum's prophecy, new insights emerge that deepen our understanding. Yet the central message remains unchanged. Justice will prevail, oppression will end, and God's purpose for humanity will ultimately be fulfilled.
The Book of Nehemiah, Chapter 1. The words of Nehemiah, the son of Hakaliah. It came to pass in the month of Kislev, in the 20th year, as I was in Shushan the citadel, that Hanani, one of my brethren, came with men from Judah. And I asked them concerning the Jews who had escaped, who had survived the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, "The survivors who are left from the captivity in the province are there in great distress and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem is also broken down, and its gates are burned with fire." So it was, when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept, and mourned for many days. I was fasting and praying before the God of heaven. And I said, "I pray, Lord God of heaven, O great and awesome God, you who keep your covenant and mercy with those who love you and observe your commandments, please let your ear be attentive and your eyes open, that you may hear the prayer of your servant, which I pray before you now, day and night, for the children of Israel your servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against you. Both my father's house and I have sinned. We have acted very corruptly against you, and have not kept the commandments, the statutes, nor the ordinances which you commanded your servant Moses. Remember, I pray, the word that you commanded your servant Moses, saying, 'If you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and keep my commandments and do them, though some of you were cast out to the farthest part of the heavens, yet I will gather them from there, and bring them to the place which I have chosen as a dwelling for my name.' Now these are your servants and your people, whom you have redeemed by your great power and by your strong hand. O Lord, I pray, please let your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant, and to the prayer of your servants who desire to fear your name. And let your servant prosper this day, I pray, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man. For I was the king's cupbearer." Chapter 2. And it came to pass in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, that I took the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had never been sad in his presence before. Therefore the king said to me, "Why is your face sad, since you are not sick? This is nothing but sorrow of heart." So I became dreadfully afraid and said to the king, "May the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad, when the city, the place of my father's tombs, lies waste, and its gates are burned with fire?" Then the king said to me, "What do you request?" So I prayed to the God of heaven. And I said to the king, "If it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, I ask that you send me to Judah, to the city of my father's tombs, that I may rebuild it." Then the king said to me, the queen also sitting beside him, "How long will your journey be, and when will you return?" So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Furthermore, I said to the king, "If it pleases the king, let letters be given to me for the governors of the region beyond the river, that they must permit me to pass through till I come to Judah, and a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he must give me timber to make beams for the gates of the citadel which pertains to the temple, for the city wall, and for the house that I will occupy. And the king granted them to me, according to the good hand of my God upon me. Then I went to the governors in the region beyond the river, and gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent captains of the army and horsemen with me. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official heard of it, they were deeply disturbed that a man had come to seek the well-being of the children of Israel. So I came to Jerusalem, and was there 3 days. Then I arose in the night, I and a few men with me. I told no one what my God had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem. Nor was there any animal with me, except the one on which I rode. And I went out by night through the valley gate to the serpent well and the refuse gate, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and its gates, which were burned with fire. Then I went on to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, but there was no room for the animal under me to pass. So I went up in the night by the valley, and viewed the wall. Then I turned back and entered by the valley gate, and so returned. And the officials did not know where I had gone, or what I had done. I had not yet told the Jews, the priests, the nobles, the officials, or the others who did the work. Then I said to them, "You see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lies waste, and its gates are burned with fire. Come and let us build the wall of Jerusalem, that we may no longer be a reproach." And I told them of the hand of my God, which had been good upon me, and also of the king's words that he had spoken to me. So they said, "Let us rise up and build." Then they set their hands to this good work. But when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite official, and Geshem the Arab heard of it, they laughed at us and despised us, and said, "What is this thing that you are doing? Will you rebel against the king?" So I answered them, and said to them, "The God of heaven himself will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build, but you have no heritage or right or memorial in Jerusalem." Chapter 3. Then Eliashib, the high priest, rose up with his brethren the priests, and built the sheep gate. They consecrated it, and hung its doors. They built as far as the Tower of the 100, and consecrated it, then as far as the Tower of Hananel. Next to Eliashib, the men of Jericho built, and next to them, Zaccur, the son of Imri, built. Also the sons of Hassenaah built the fish gate. They laid its beams, and hung its doors with its bolts and bars. And next to them, Meremoth, the son of Urijah, the son of Koz, made repairs. Next to them, Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, the son of Meshezabel, made repairs. Next to them, Zadok, the son of Baanah, made repairs. Next to them, the Tekoites made repairs. But their nobles did not put their shoulders to the work of their lord. Moreover, Jehoiada, the son of Paseah, and Meshullam, the son of Besadiah, repaired the old gate. They laid its beams and hung its doors with its bolts and bars. And next to them, Melatiah the Gibeonite, Jadon the Meronothite, the men of Gibeon and Mizpah, repaired the residence of the governor of the region beyond the river. Next to him, Uzziel the son of Harhaiah, one of the goldsmiths, made repairs. Also next to him, Hananiah, one of the perfumers, made repairs. And they fortified Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. And next to them, Rephaiah, the son of Hur, leader of half the district of Jerusalem, made repairs. Next to them, Jedaiah, the son of Harumaph, made repairs in front of his house. And next to him, Hattush, the son of Hashabniah, made repairs. Malchijah, the son of Harim, and Hashub, the son of Pahath-Moab, repaired another section, as well as the tower of the ovens. And next to him was Shallum, the son of Halohesh, leader of half the district of Jerusalem. He and his daughters made repairs. Hanan and the inhabitants of Zanoah repaired the valley gate. They built it, hung its doors with its bolts and bars, and repaired 1,000 cubits of the wall as far as the refuse gate. Malchijah, the son of Rechab, leader of the district of Beth-Hakerem, repaired the refuse gate. He built it and hung its doors with its bolts and bars. Shallun, the son of Kolhozeh, leader of the district of Mizpah, repaired the fountain gate. He built it, covered it, hung its doors with its bolts and bars, and repaired the wall of the pool of Shelah by the king's garden, as far as the stairs that go down from the city of David. After him, Nehemiah, the son of Azbuk, leader of half the district of Beth-zur, made repairs as far as the place in front of the tombs of David, to the man-made pool, and as far as the house of the mighty. After him, the Levites, under Rehum the son of Bani, made repairs. Next to him, Hashabiah, leader of half the district of Keilah, made repairs for his district. After him, their brethren, under Bavi the son of Henadad, leader of the other half of the district of Keilah, made repairs. And next to him, Ezer, the son of Jeshua, the leader of Mizpah, repaired another section in front of the ascent to the armory at the buttress. After him, Baruch, the son of Zabbai, carefully repaired the other section, from the buttress to the door of the house of Eliashib the high priest. After him, Meremoth, the son of Urijah, the son of Koz, repaired another section, from the door of the house of Eliashib to the end of the house of Eliashib. And after him, the priests, the men of the plain, made repairs. After him, Benjamin and Hashab made repairs opposite their house. After them, Azariah, the son of Maaseiah, the son of Ananiah, made repairs by his house. After him, Binnui, the son of Henadad, repaired another section, from the house of Azariah to the buttress, even as far as the corner. Halal, the son of Uzai, made repairs opposite the buttress, and on the tower which projects from the king's upper house that was by the court of the prison. After him, Pedaiah, the son of Parosh, made repairs. Moreover, the Nethinim who dwelt in Ophel made repairs as far as the place in front of the water gate, toward the east and on the projecting tower. After them, the Tekoites repaired another section, next to the great projecting tower and as far as the wall of Ophel. Beyond the horse gate, the priests made repairs, each in front of his own house. After them, Zadok, the son of Immer, made repairs in front of his own house. After him, Shemaiah, the son of Shechaniah, the keeper of the east gate, made repairs. After him, Hananiah, the son of Shelemiah, and Hanan, the sixth son of Zalaph, repaired another section. After him, Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, made repairs in front of his dwelling. After him, Malchijah, one of the goldsmiths, made repairs as far as the house of the Nethinim and of the merchants, in front of the Mifkad gate, and as far as the upper room at the corner. And between the upper room at the corner, as far as the sheep gate, the goldsmiths and the merchants made repairs. Chapter 4. But it so happened, When Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, that he was furious and very indignant, and mocked the Jews. And he spoke before his brethren and the army of Samaria, and said, "What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they fortify themselves? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they complete it in a day? Will they revive the stones from the heaps of rubbish, stones that are burned?" Now Tobiah the Ammonite was beside him, and he said, "Whatever they build, if even a fox goes up on it, he will break down their stone wall. Hear, O our God, for we are despised. Turn their reproach on their own heads, and give them as plunder to a land of captivity. Do not cover their iniquity, and do not let their sin be blotted out from before you, for they have provoked you to anger before the builders." So we built the wall, and the entire wall was joined together up to half its height, for the people had a mind to work. Now it happened, when Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were being restored, and the gaps were beginning to be closed, that they became very angry, and all of them conspired together to come and attack Jerusalem and create confusion. Nevertheless, we made our prayer to our God, and because of them we set a watch against them day and night. Then Judah said, "The strength of the laborers is failing, and there is so much rubbish that we are not able to build the wall." And our adversaries said, "They will neither know nor see anything till we come into their midst and kill them and cause the work to cease." So it was, when the Jews who dwelt near them came, that they told us 10 times, "From whatever place you turn, they will be upon us." Therefore I positioned men behind the lower parts of the wall at the openings. And I set the people according to their families, with their swords, their spears, and their bows. And I looked, and arose, and said to the nobles, to the leaders, and to the rest of the people, "Do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, great and awesome, and fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses." And it happened, when our enemies heard that it was known to us, and that God had brought their plot to nothing, that all of us returned to the wall, everyone to his work. So it was, from that time on, that half of my servants worked at construction, while the other half held the spears, the shields, the bows, and wore armor. And the leaders were behind all the house of Judah. Those who built on the wall, and those who carried burdens, loaded themselves so that with one hand they worked at construction, and with the other held a weapon. Every one of the builders had his sword girded at his side as he built, and the one who sounded the trumpet was beside me. Then I said to the nobles, the rulers, and the rest of the people, "The work is great and extensive, and we are separated far from one another on the wall. Wherever you hear the sound of the trumpet, rally to us there. Our God will fight for us." So we labored in the work, and half of the men held the spears from daybreak until the stars appeared. At the same time, I also said to the people, "Let each man and his servant stay at night in Jerusalem, that they may be our guard by night and a working party by day." So neither I, my brethren, my servants, nor the men of the guard who followed me took off our clothes, except that everyone took them off for washing. Chapter 5. And there was a great outcry of the people and their wives against their Jewish brethren. For there were those who said, "We, our sons and our daughters, are many. Therefore let us get grain, that we may eat and live." There were also some who said, "We have mortgaged our lands and vineyards and houses, that we might buy grain because of the famine." There were also those who said, We have borrowed money for the king's tax on our lands and vineyards. Yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our brethren, our children as their children. And indeed, we are forcing our sons and our daughters to be slaves, and some of our daughters have been brought into slavery. It is not in our power to redeem them, for other men have our lands and vineyards. And I became very angry when I heard their outcry and these words. After serious thought, I rebuked the nobles and rulers, and said to them, "Each of you is exacting usury from his brother." So I called a great assembly against them. And I said to them, "According to our ability, we have redeemed our Jewish brethren who were sold to the nations. Now indeed, will you even sell your brethren, or should they be sold to us?" Then they were silenced and found nothing to say. Then I said, "What you are doing is not good. Should you not walk in the fear of our God because of the reproach of the nations, our enemies? I also, with my brethren and my servants, am lending them money and grain. Please, let us stop this usury. Restore now to them even this day their lands, their vineyards, their olive groves, and their houses. Also 100th of the money and the grain, the new wine and the oil that you have charged them." So they said, "We will restore it, and will require nothing from them. We will do as you say." Then I called the priests, and required an oath from them that they would do according to this promise. Then I shook out the fold of my garment, and said, "So may God shake out each man from his house and from his property who does not perform this promise. Even thus may he be shaken out and emptied." And all the assembly said, "Amen," and praised the Lord. Then the people did according to this promise. Moreover, from the time that I was appointed to be their governor in the land of Judah, from the 20th year until the 32nd year of King Artaxerxes, 12 years, neither I nor my brothers ate the governor's provisions. But the former governors who were before me laid burdens on the people, and took from them bread and wine, besides 40 shekels of silver. Yes, even their servants bore rule over the people. But I did not do so, because of the fear of God. Indeed, I also continued the work on this wall, and we did not buy any land. All my servants were gathered there for the work. And at my table were 150 Jews and rulers, besides those who came to us from the nations around us. Now that which was prepared daily was 1 ox and 6 choice sheep. Also fowl were prepared for me, and once every 10 days an abundance of all kinds of wine. Yet in spite of this, I did not demand the governor's provisions, because the bondage was heavy on this people. Remember me, my God, for good, according to all that I have done for this people. Chapter 6. Now it happened when Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem the Arab, and the rest of our enemies heard that I had rebuilt the wall, and that there were no breaks left in it, though at that time I had not hung the doors in the gates, that Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, "Come, let us meet together among the villages in the plain of Ono." But they thought to do me harm. So I sent messengers to them, saying, "I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and go down to you?" But they sent me this message 4 times, and I answered them in the same manner. Then Sanballat sent his servant to me as before, the 5th time, with an open letter in his hand. In it was written, "It is reported among the nations, and Geshem says, that you and the Jews plan to rebel. Therefore, according to these rumors, you are rebuilding the wall, that you may be their king. And you have also appointed prophets to proclaim concerning you at Jerusalem, saying, 'There is a king in Judah.' Now these matters will be reported to the king. So come, therefore, and let us consult together." Then I sent to him, saying, "No such things as you say are being done, but you invent them in your own heart." For they all were trying to make us afraid, saying, "Their hands will be weakened in the work, and it will not be done." Now therefore, O God, strengthen my hands. Afterward, I came to the house of Shemaiah the son of Delaiah, the son of Mehetabel, who was a secret informer. And he said, "Let us meet together in the house of God, within the temple, and let us close the doors of the temple, for they are coming to kill you. Indeed, at night they will come to kill you." And I said, "Should such a man as I flee? And who is there such as I who would go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in." Then I perceived that God had not sent him at all, but that he pronounced this prophecy against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. For this reason he was hired, that I should be afraid and act that way and sin, so that they might have cause for an evil report, that they might reproach me. My God, remember Tobiah and Sanballat, according to these their works, and the prophetess Noadiah, and the rest of the prophets who would have made me afraid. So the wall was finished on the 25th day of Elul in 52 days. And it happened, when all our enemies heard of it, and all the nations around us saw these things, that they were very disheartened in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was done by our God. Also in those days, the nobles of Judah sent many letters to Tobiah, and the letters of Tobiah came to them. For many in Judah were pledged to him, because he was the son-in-law of Shechaniah the son of Arah, and his son Jehohanan had married the daughter of Meshullam the son of Berechiah. Also they reported his good deeds before me, and reported my words to him. Tobiah sent letters to frighten me. Chapter 7. Then it was, when the wall was built, and I had hung the doors, when the gatekeepers, the singers, and the Levites had been appointed, that I gave the charge of Jerusalem to my brother Hanani, and Hananiah, the leader of the citadel, for he was a faithful man, and feared God more than many. And I said to them, "Do not let the gates of Jerusalem be opened until the sun is hot. And while they stand guard, let them shut and bar the doors. And appoint guards from among the inhabitants of Jerusalem, one at his watch station and another in front of his own house." Now the city was large and spacious, but the people in it were few, and the houses were not rebuilt. Then my God put it into my heart to gather the nobles, the rulers, and the people, that they might be registered by genealogy. And I found a register of the genealogy of those who had come up in the first return, and found written in it, "These are the people of the province who came back from the captivity, of those who had been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon had carried away, and who returned to Jerusalem and Judah, everyone to his city. Those who came with Zerubbabel were Jeshua, Nehemiah, Azariah, Rehemiah, Nahamani, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispereth, Bigvai, Nahum, and Baanah. The number of the men of the people of Israel. The sons of Parosh, 2,172. The sons of Shephatiah, 372. The sons of Arah, 652. The sons of Pahath Moab, of the sons of Jeshua and Joab, 2,818. The sons of Elam, 1,254. The sons of Zattu, 845. The sons of Zakkai, 760. The sons of Binnui, 648. The sons of Bebai, 628. The sons of Azgad, 2,322. The sons of Adonikam, 667. The sons of Bigvai, 2,067. The sons of Adin, 655. The sons of Ater of Hezekiah, 98. The sons of Hashem, 328. The sons of Bezai, 324. The sons of Hariph, 112. The sons of Gibeon, 95. The men of Bethlehem and Netophah, 188. The men of Anathoth, 128. The men of Beth Asmaveth, 42. The men of Kirjath-jearim, Kephirah, and Beeroth, 743. The men of Ramah and Geba, 621. The men of Michmas, 122. The men of Bethel and Ai, 123. The men of the other Nebo, 52. The sons of the other Elam, 1,254. The sons of Harim, 320. The sons of Jericho, 345. The sons of Lod, Hadid, and Ono, 721. The sons of Senaah, 3,930. The priests. The sons of Judea of the house of Jeshua, 973. The sons of Immer, 1,052. The sons of Pasha, 1,247. The sons of Harim, 1,017. The Levites. The sons of Jeshua, of Kadmiel, and of the sons of Hodiva, 74. The singers, the sons of Asaph, 148. The gatekeepers, the sons of Shallum, the sons of Ater, the sons of Talmon, the sons of Akub, the sons of Hatita, the sons of Shobai, 138. The Nethinim, the sons of Zihah, the sons of Hasupha, the sons of Tabaoth, the sons of Keros, the sons of Sire, the sons of Padan, the sons of Libana, the sons of Hagabah, the sons of Salmai, the sons of Hanan, the sons of Giddel, the sons of Gahar, the sons of Reaiah, the sons of Rezin, the sons of Nekoda, the sons of Gazam, the sons of Uzzah, the sons of Paseah, the sons of Besai, the sons of Meunim, the sons of Nephishasim, the sons of Bakbuk, the sons of Hakupha, the sons of Harha, the sons of Baslith, the sons of Mehida, the sons of Harsha, the sons of Barkos, the sons of Sisera, the sons of Tamar, the sons of Neziah, and the sons of Hatipha. The sons of Solomon's servants, the sons of Sotai, the sons of Sopherith, the sons of Perida, the sons of Jaala, the sons of Darkon, the sons of Giddel, the sons of Shephatiah, the sons of Hattil, the sons of Pocherith of Zebaim, and the sons of Ammon. All the Nethinim and the sons of Solomon's servants were 392. And these were the ones who came up from Tel Melah, Tel Harsha, Kerub, Adon, and Immer, but they could not identify their father's house, nor their lineage, whether they were of Israel. The sons of Delaiah, the sons of Tobiah, the sons of Nekoda, 642. And of the priests, the sons of Hobaiah, the sons of Koz, the sons of Barzillai, who took a wife of the daughters of Barzillai the Gileadite, and was called by their name. These sought their listing among those who were registered by genealogy, but it was not found. Therefore they were excluded from the priesthood as defiled. And the governor said to them that they should not eat of the most holy things till a priest could consult with the Urim and Thummim. Altogether, the whole assembly was 42,360, besides their male and female servants, of whom there were 7,337. And they had 245 men and women singers. Their horses were 736, their mules 245, their camels 435, and donkeys 6,720. And some of the heads of the fathers' houses gave to the work. The governor gave to the treasury 1,000 gold drachmas, 50 basins, and 530 priestly garments. Some of the heads of the fathers' houses gave to the treasury of the work 20,000 gold drachmas, and 2,200 silver minas. And that which the rest of the people gave was 20,000 gold drachmas, 2,000 silver minas, and 67 priestly garments. So the priests, the Levites, the gatekeepers, the singers, some of the people, the Nethinim, and all Israel dwelt in their cities. When the 7th month came, the children of Israel were in their cities. Chapter 8. Now all the people gathered together as one man in the open square that was in front of the water gate. And they told Ezra the scribe to bring the book of the law of Moses, which the Lord had commanded Israel. So Ezra the priest brought the law before the assembly of men and women and all who could hear with understanding, on the 1st day of the 7th month. Then he read from it in the open square that was in front of the water gate, from morning until midday, before the men and women and those who could understand. And the ears of all the people were attentive to the book of the law. So Ezra the scribe stood on a platform of wood which they had made for the purpose, and beside him, at his right hand, stood Mattithiah, Shema, Anaiah, Urijah, Hilkiah, and Maaseiah. And at his left hand, Pedaiah, Mishael, Malchijah, Hashem, Hashbaddanah, Zechariah, and Meshullam. And Ezra opened the book in the sight of all the people, for he was standing above all the people. And when he opened it, all the people stood up. And Ezra blessed the Lord, the great God. Then all the people answered, Amen, Amen, while lifting up their hands. And they bowed their heads and worshipped the Lord with their faces to the ground. Also Jeshua, Bani, Sherebiah, Jamin, Akkub, Shabbathai, Hodijah, Maaseiah, Kelita, Azariah, Jozabad, Hanan, Pelaiah, and the Levites helped the people to understand the law. And the people stood in their place. So they read distinctly from the book in the law of God, and they gave the sense and helped them to understand the reading. And Nehemiah, who was the governor, Ezra the priest and scribe, and the Levites who taught the people, said to all the people, This day is holy to the Lord your God. Do not mourn nor weep. For all the people wept when they heard the words of the law. Then he said to them, Go your way, eat the fat, drink the sweet, and send portions to those for whom nothing is prepared. For this day is holy to our Lord. Do not sorrow, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. So the Levites quieted all the people, saying, Be still, for the day is holy. Do not be grieved. And all the people went their way to eat and drink, to send portions, and rejoice greatly, because they understood the words that were declared to them. Now on the 2nd day, the heads of the fathers' houses of all the people, with the priests and Levites, were gathered to Ezra the scribe, in order to understand the words of the law. And they found written in the law, which the Lord had commanded by Moses, that the children of Israel should dwell in booths during the feast of the 7th month, and that they should announce and proclaim in all their cities and in Jerusalem, saying, Go out to the mountain, and bring olive branches, branches of oil trees, myrtle branches, palm branches, and branches of leafy trees, to make booths, as it is written. Then the people went out and brought them and made themselves booths, each one on the roof of his house, or in their courtyards, or the courts of the house of God, and in the open square of the water gate, and in the open square of the gate of Ephraim. So the whole assembly of those who had returned from the captivity made booths and sat under the booths. For since the days of Joshua the son of Nun until that day, the children of Israel had not done so. And there was very great gladness. Also, day by day, from the first day until the last day, he read from the book of the law of God. And they kept the feast 7 days. And on the 8th day there was a sacred assembly, according to the prescribed manner. Chapter 9. Now on the 24th day of this month, the children of Israel were assembled with fasting, in sackcloth, and with dust on their heads. Then those of Israelite lineage separated themselves from all foreigners. And they stood and confessed their sins and the iniquities of their fathers. And they stood up in their place, and read from the book of the law of the Lord their God, for 1/4 of the day. And for another 1/4 they confessed and worshipped the Lord their God. Then Jeshua, Bani, Kadmiel, Shebaniah, Bunni, Sherebiah, Bani, and Chinani stood on the stairs of the Levites, and cried out with a loud voice to the Lord their God. And the Levites, Jeshua, Kadmiel, Bani, Hashabniah, Sherebiah, Hodijah, Shebaniah, and Pethahiah, said, Stand up and bless the Lord your God forever and ever. Blessed be your glorious name, which is exalted above all blessing and praise. You alone are the Lord. You have made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all their host, the earth and everything on it, the seas and all that is in them, and you preserve them all. The host of heaven worships you. You are the Lord God, who chose Abram and brought him out of Ur of the Chaldeans, and gave him the name Abraham. You found his heart faithful before you, and made a covenant with him, to give the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, and the Girgashites, to give it to his descendants. You have performed your words, for you are righteous. You saw the affliction of our fathers in Egypt, and heard their cry by the Red Sea. You showed signs and wonders against Pharaoh, against all his servants, and against all the people of his land. For you knew that they acted proudly against them. So you made a name for yourself, as it is this day. And you divided the sea before them, so that they went through the midst of the sea on the dry land. And their persecutors you threw into the deep, as a stone into the mighty waters. Moreover, you led them by day with a cloudy pillar, and by night with a pillar of fire, to give them light on the road which they should travel. You came down also on Mount Sinai, and spoke with them from heaven, and gave them just ordinances and true laws, good statutes and commandments. You made known to them your holy Sabbath, and commanded them precepts, statutes, and laws, by the hand of Moses your servant. You gave them bread from heaven for their hunger, and brought them water out of the rock for their thirst, and told them to go in to possess the land which you had sworn to give them. But they and our fathers acted proudly, hardened their necks, and did not heed your commandments. They refused to obey, and they were not mindful of your wonders that you did among them. But they hardened their necks, and in their rebellion they appointed a leader to return to their bondage. But you are God, ready to pardon, gracious and merciful, slow to anger, abundant in kindness, and did not forsake them. Even when they made a molded calf for themselves, and said, This is your God that brought you up out of Egypt, and worked great provocations. Yet in your manifold mercies, you did not forsake them in the wilderness. The pillar of the cloud did not depart from them by day to lead them on the road, nor the pillar of fire by night to show them light and the way they should go. You also gave your good spirit to instruct them, and did not withhold your manna from their mouth, and gave them water for their thirst. 40 years you sustained them in the wilderness. They lacked nothing. Their clothes did not wear out, and their feet did not swell. Moreover, you gave them kingdoms and nations, and divided them into districts. So they took possession of the land of Sihon, the land of the king of Heshbon, and the land of Og, king of Bashan. You also multiplied their children as the stars of heaven, and brought them into the land which you had told their fathers to go in and possess. So the people went in and possessed the land. You subdued before them the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, and gave them into their hands with their kings and the people of the land, that they might do with them as they wished. And they took strong cities and a rich land, and possessed houses full of all goods, cisterns already dug, vineyards, olive groves, and fruit trees in abundance. So they ate and were filled and grew fat, and delighted themselves in your great goodness. Nevertheless, they were disobedient and rebelled against you, cast your law behind their backs, and killed your prophets who testified against them to turn them to yourself. And they worked great provocations. Therefore you delivered them into the hand of their enemies, who oppressed them. And in the time of their trouble, when they cried to you, you heard from heaven. And according to your abundant mercies, you gave them deliverers who saved them from the hand of their enemies. But after they had rest, they again did evil before you. Therefore you left them in the hand of their enemies, so that they had dominion over them. Yet when they returned and cried out to you, you heard from heaven. And many times you delivered them according to your mercies, and testified against them, that you might bring them back to your law. Yet they acted proudly, and did not heed your commandments, but sinned against your judgments, which if a man does, he shall live by them. And they shrugged their shoulders, stiffened their necks, and would not hear. Yet for many years you had patience with them, and testified against them by your Spirit in your prophets. Yet they would not listen. Therefore you gave them into the hand of the peoples of the lands. Nevertheless, in your great mercy, you did not utterly consume them nor forsake them, for you are God, gracious and merciful. Now therefore, our God, the great, the mighty, and awesome God, who keeps covenant and mercy, do not let all the trouble seem small before you that has come upon us, our kings and our princes, our priests and our prophets, our fathers, and on all your people, from the days of the kings of Assyria until this day. However, you are just in all that has befallen us, for you have dealt faithfully, but we have done wickedly. Neither our kings nor our princes, our priests nor our fathers have kept your law, nor heeded your commandments and your testimonies with which you testified against them. For they have not served you in their kingdom, or in the many good things that you gave them, or in the large and rich land which you set before them, nor did they turn from their wicked works. Here we are, servants today, and the land that you gave to our fathers to eat its fruit and its bounty, here we are, servants in it. And it yields much increase to the kings you have set over us, because of our sins. Also they have dominion over our bodies and our cattle at their pleasure, and we are in great distress. And because of all this, we make a sure covenant and write it. Our leaders, our Levites, and our priests seal it. Chapter 10. Now those who placed their seal on the document were Nehemiah the governor, the son of Hakaliah and Zedekiah, Siraiah, Azariah, Jeremiah, Pasha, Amariah, Malchijah, Hattush, Shebaniah, Malach, Harim, Meremoth, Obadiah, Daniel, Ginnathon, Baruch, Meshullam, Abijah, Mijamin, Maaziah, Bilgai, and Shemaiah. These were the priests. The Levites, Jeshua the son of Azaniah, Binnui of the sons of Henadad, and Kadmiel. Their brethren, Shebaniah, Hodijah, Kelita, Pileah, Hanan, Micah, Rehob, Hashabiah, Zakah, Sherebiah, Shebaniah, Hodijah, Bani, and Beninu. The leaders of the people, Parosh, Pahath Moab, Elam, Zatu, Bani, Bunai, Asgad, Bebai, Adonijah, Bigvai, Adin, Ater, Hezekiah, Azza, Hodijah, Hashem, Bezai, Hariph, Anathoth, Nebai, Magpiash, Meshullam, Hezah, Meshezabel, Zadok, Jaddua, Pelatiah, Hanan, Anaiah, Hoshea, Hananiah, Hashub, Halohesh, Pilha, Shobek, Rehum, Hashabnah, Maaseiah, Ahijah, Hanan, Anan, Malach, Harim, and Baanah. Now the rest of the people, the priests, the Levites, the gatekeepers, the singers, the Nethinim, and all those who had separated themselves from the peoples of the lands to the law of God, their wives, their sons, and their daughters, everyone who had knowledge and understanding, these joined with their brethren, their nobles, and entered into a curse and an oath to walk in God's law, which was given by Moses the servant of God, and to observe and do all the commandments of the Lord our Lord, and his ordinances and his statutes. We would not give our daughters as wives to the peoples of the land, nor take their daughters for our sons. If the peoples of the land brought wares or any grain to sell on the Sabbath day, we would not buy it from them on the Sabbath, or on a holy day. And we would forego the 7th year's produce and the exacting of every debt. Also, we made ordinances for ourselves to exact from ourselves yearly 1/3 of a shekel for the service of the house of our God, for the showbread, for the regular grain offering, for the regular burnt offering of the Sabbaths, the new moons, and the set feasts, for the holy things, for the sin offerings to make atonement for Israel, and all the work of the house of our God. We cast lots among the priests, the Levites, and the people, for bringing the wood offering into the house of our God, according to our fathers' houses, at the appointed times, year by year, to burn on the altar of the Lord our God, as it is written in the law. And we made ordinances to bring the first fruits of our ground and the first fruits of all fruit of all trees, year by year, to the house of the Lord, to bring the firstborn of our sons and our cattle, as it is written in the law, and the firstborn of our herds and our flocks, to the house of our God, to the priests who minister in the house of our God, to bring the firstfruits of our dough, our offerings, the fruit from all kinds of trees, the new wine and oil, to the priests, to the storerooms of the house of our God, and to bring the tithes of our land to the Levites, for the Levites should receive the tithes in all our farming communities. And the priest, the descendant of Aaron, shall be with the Levites when the Levites receive tithes. And the Levites shall bring up 1/10 of the tithes to the house of our God, to the rooms of the storehouse. For the children of Israel and the children of Levi shall bring the offering of the grain, of the new wine and the oil, to the storerooms where the articles of the sanctuary are, where the priests who minister and the gatekeepers and the singers are. And we will not neglect the house of our God. Chapter 11. Now the leaders of the people dwelt at Jerusalem. The rest of the people cast lots to bring 1 out of 10 to dwell in Jerusalem, the holy city, and 9/10 were to dwell in other cities. And the people blessed all the men who willingly offered themselves to dwell at Jerusalem. These are the heads of the province who dwelt in Jerusalem. But in the cities of Judah, everyone dwelt in his own possession in their cities: Israelites, priests, Levites, Nethinim, and descendants of Solomon's servants. Also in Jerusalem dwelt some of the children of Judah and of the children of Benjamin. The children of Judah: Athaiah, the son of Uzziah, the son of Zechariah, the son of Amariah, the son of Shephatiah, the son of Mahalalel, of the children of Perez. And Maaseiah, the son of Baruch, the son of Kolhoseh, the son of Hosea, the son of Adaiah, the son of Joiarib, the son of Zechariah, the son of Shiloni. All the sons of Perez who dwelt at Jerusalem were 468 valiant men. And these are the sons of Benjamin: Sallu, the son of Meshullam, the son of Joed, the son of Pedaiah, the son of Kolaiah, the son of Maaseiah, the son of Ithiel, the son of Jeshaiah. And after him, Gabbai and Sallai, 928. Joel the son of Zichri was their overseer, and Judah the son of Sinua was second over the city. Of the priests, Jedaiah the son of Joiarib, and Jachin. Siraiah the son of Hilkiah, the son of Meshullam, the son of Zadok, the son of Miraioth, the son of Ahitub, was the leader of the house of God. Their brethren who did the work of the house were 822. And Adaiah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Pelaliah, the son of Amzai, the son of Zechariah, the son of Pasha, the son of Malchijah, and his brethren, heads of the fathers' houses, were 242. And Amashai, the son of Azarel, the son of Arzai, the son of Meshillemoth, the son of Immer, and their brethren, mighty men of valor, were 128. Their overseer was Zabdiel, the son of one of the great men. Also of the Levites, Shemaiah, the son of Hashub, the son of Azrikam, the son of Hashabiah, the son of Bunai. Shabbathai and Jozabad, of the heads of the Levites, had the oversight of the business outside of the house of God. Mattaniah, the son of Micah, the son of Zabdi, the son of Asaph, the leader who began the thanksgiving with prayer. Bakbukiah, the second among his brethren. And Abda, the son of Shemua, the son of Galal, the son of Jeduthun. All the Levites in the holy city were 284. Moreover, the gatekeepers, Akub, Talmon, and their brethren who kept the gates, were 172. And the rest of Israel, of the priests and Levites, were in all the cities of Judah, everyone in his inheritance. But the Nethinim dwelt in Ophel, and Zihah and Gishpa were over the Nethinim. Also the overseer of the Levites at Jerusalem was Uzzi, the son of Bani, the son of Hashabiah, the son of Mattaniah, the son of Micah. Of the sons of Asaph, the singers in charge of the service of the house of God. For it was the king's command concerning them that a certain portion should be for the singers, a quota day by day. Pethahiah, the son of Meshezabel, of the children of Zerah, the son of Judah, was the king's deputy in all matters concerning the people. And as for the villages with their fields, some of the children of Judah dwelt in Kirjath Arba and its villages, Dibon and its villages, Jekabzeel and its villages. In Jeshua, Moladah, Beth Pelet, Hazashul, and Beersheba and its villages. In Ziklag and Mekona and its villages. In En-Rimmon, Zorah, Jarmuth, Zanoah, Adullam and their villages. In Lachish and its fields. In Azekah and its villages. They dwelt from Beersheba to the valley of Hinnom, Also the children of Benjamin from Geba dwelt in Michmash, Ajah, and Bethel, and their villages. In Anathoth, Nob, Ananiah. In Hazor, Ramah, Gittaim. In Hadid, Zeboim, Neballat. In Lod, Ono, and the Valley of Craftsmen. Some of the Judean divisions of Levites were in Benjamin. Chapter 12. Now these are the priests and the Levites who came up with Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel and Jeshua: Seraiah, Jeremiah, Ezra, Amariah, Malach, Hattush, Shechaniah, Rehum, Miramoth, Iddo, Ginnathoi, Abijah, Mijamin, Maadiah, Bilgah, Shemaiah, Joiarib, Judea, Salu, Amok, Hilkiah, and Judea. These were the heads of the priests and their brethren in the days of Jeshua. Moreover, the Levites were Jeshua, Binnui, Kadmiel, Sherebiah, Judah, and Mattaniah, who led the thanksgiving psalms, he and his brethren. Also, Bakbukiah and Unai, their brethren, stood across from them in their duties. Jeshua begot Joachim, Joachim begot Eliashib, Eliashib begot Joiada, Joiada begot Jonathan, and Jonathan begot Jaddua. Now in the days of Joachim, the priests, the heads of the fathers' houses, were of Seraiah, Mireah, of Jeremiah, Hananiah, of Ezra, Meshullam, of Amariah, Jehohanan, of Melichu, Jonathan, of Shebaniah, Joseph, of Harim, Adna, of Miraioth, Helkai, of Iddo, Zechariah, of Ginnathon, Meshullam, of Abijah, Zichri, the son of Minjamin, of Moadiah, Piltai, of Bilgah, Shemua, of Shemaiah, Jehonathan, of Joiarib, Mattanai, of Judea, Uzzi, of Salai, Kalai, of Amok, Eber, of Hilkiah, Hashabiah, and of Judea, Nethanel. During the reign of Darius the Persian, a record was also kept of the Levites and priests who had been heads of their fathers' houses in the days of Eliashib, Joiada, Johanan, and Jaddua. The sons of Levi, the heads of the fathers' houses until the days of Johanan the son of Eliashib, were written in the book of the Chronicles. And the heads of the Levites were Hashabiah, Sherebiah, and Jeshua the son of Kadmiel, with their brothers across from them, to praise and give thanks, group alternating with group, according to the command of David the man of God. Mattaniah, Bakbukiah, Obadiah, Meshullam, Talmon, and Akkub were gatekeepers, keeping the watch at the storerooms of the gates. These lived in the days of Joachim the son of Jeshua, the son of Josadak, and in the days of Nehemiah the governor, and of Ezra the priest, the scribe. Now at the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem, they sought out the Levites in all their places, to bring them to Jerusalem, to celebrate the dedication with gladness, both with thanksgivings and singing, with cymbals and stringed instruments and harps. And the sons of the singers gathered together from the countryside around Jerusalem, from the villages of the Netophathites, from the house of Gilgal, and from the fields of Geba and Asmaveth, for the singers had built themselves villages all around Jerusalem. Then the priests and Levites purified themselves, and purified the people, the gates, and the wall. So I brought the leaders of Judah up on the wall, and appointed 2 large thanksgiving choirs. One went to the right hand on the wall toward the refuse gate. After them went Hoshea, and half of the leaders of Judah, and Azariah, Ezra, Meshullam, Judah, Benjamin, Shemaiah, Jeremiah, and some of the priests' sons with trumpets. Zechariah, the son of Jonathan, the son of Shemaiah, the son of Mattaniah, the son of Micaiah, the son of Zaccur, the son of Asaph, and his brethren, Shemaiah, Azarel, Milalai, Gilalai, Maai, Nethanel, Judah, and Hanani, with the musical instruments of David the man of God. And Ezra the scribe went before them. By the fountain gate, in front of them, they went up the stairs of the city of David, on the stairway of the wall, beyond the house of David, as far as the water gate eastward. The other thanksgiving choir went the opposite way, and I was behind them with half of the people on the wall, going past the tower of the ovens as far as the broad wall, and above the gate of Ephraim, above the old gate, above the fish gate, the tower of Hananel, the tower of the 100, as far as the sheep gate. And they stopped by the gate of the prison. So the two thanksgiving choirs stood in the house of God. Likewise I and the half of the rulers with me. And the priests, Eliakim, Maaseiah, Minjamin, Micaiah, Elioenai, Zechariah, and Hananiah, with trumpets. Also Maaseiah, Shemaiah, Eleazar, Uzzi, Jehohanan, Malchijah, Elam, and Ezer. The singers sang loudly with Jezrahiah, the director. Also that day they offered great sacrifices and rejoiced, for God had made them rejoice with great joy. The women and the children also rejoiced, so that the joy of Jerusalem was heard afar off. And at the same time, some were appointed over the rooms of the storehouse, for the offerings, the firstfruits, and the tithes, to gather into them from the fields of the cities the portions specified by the law for the priests and Levites. For Judah rejoiced over the priests and Levites who ministered. Both the singers and the gatekeepers kept the charge of their God, and the charge of the purification, according to the command of David and Solomon his son. For in the days of David and Asaph of old, there were chiefs of the singers, and songs of praise and thanksgiving to God. In the days of Zerubbabel and in the days of Nehemiah, all Israel gave the portions for the singers and the gatekeepers, a portion for each day. They also consecrated holy things for the Levites, and the Levites consecrated them for the children of Aaron. Chapter 13. On that day, they read from the book of Moses in the hearing of the people, and in it was found written that no Ammonite or Moabite should ever come into the assembly of God, because they had not met the children of Israel with bread and water, but hired Balaam against them to curse them. However, our God turned the curse into a blessing. So it was, when they had heard the law, that they separated all the mixed multitude from Israel. Now before this, Eliashib the priest, having authority over the storerooms of the house of our God, was allied with Tobiah, and he had prepared for him a large room, where previously they had stored the grain offerings, the frankincense, the articles, the tithes of grain, the new wine and oil, which were commanded to be given to the Levites and singers and gatekeepers, and the offerings for the priests. But during all this, I was not in Jerusalem, for in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes, king of Babylon, I had returned to the king. Then after certain days, I obtained leave from the king, and I came to Jerusalem and discovered the evil that Eliashib had done for Tobiah in preparing a room for him in the courts of the house of God. And it grieved me bitterly. Therefore I threw all the household goods of Tobiah out of the room. Then I commanded them to cleanse the rooms, and I brought back into them the articles of the house of God, with the grain offering and the frankincense. I also realized that the portions for the Levites had not been given them, for each of the Levites and the singers who did the work had gone back to his field. So I contended with the rulers and said, "Why is the house of God forsaken?" And I gathered them together and set them in their place. Then all Judah brought the tithe of the grain and the new wine and the oil to the storehouse. And I appointed as treasurers over the storehouse Shelemiah the priest and Zadok the scribe, and of the Levites Pedaiah. And next to them was Hanan the son of Zaccur, the son of Mattaniah. For they were considered faithful, and their task was to distribute to their brethren. Remember me, O my God, concerning this, and do not wipe out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God, and for its services. In those days I saw people in Judah treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves, and loading donkeys with wine, grapes, figs, and all kinds of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I warned them about the day on which they were selling provisions. Men of Tyre dwelt there also, who brought in fish and all kinds of goods, and sold them on the Sabbath to the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah, and said to them, "What evil thing is this that you do, by which you profane the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers do thus? And did not our God bring all this disaster on us and on this city? Yet you bring added wrath on Israel by profaning the Sabbath." So it was, at the gates of Jerusalem, as it began to be dark before the Sabbath, that I commanded the gates to be shut, and charged that they must not be opened till after the Sabbath. Then I posted some of my servants at the gates, so that no burdens would be brought in on the Sabbath day. Now the merchants and sellers of all kinds of wares lodged outside Jerusalem once or twice. Then I warned them and said to them, "Why do you spend the night around the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you." From that time on, they came no more on the Sabbath. And I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves, and that they should go and guard the gates to sanctify the Sabbath day. Remember me, O my God, concerning this also, and spare me according to the greatness of your mercy. In those days I also saw Jews who had married women of Ashdod, Ammon, and Moab. And half of their children spoke the language of Ashdod, and could not speak the language of Judah, but spoke according to the language of one or the other people. So I contended with them, and cursed them, struck some of them, and pulled out their hair, and made them swear by God, saying, "You shall not give your daughters as wives to their sons, nor take their daughters for your sons or yourselves. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations there was no king like him, who was beloved of his God. And God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, pagan women caused even him to sin. Should we then hear of your doing all this great evil, transgressing against our God by marrying pagan women?" And one of the sons of Joiada, the son of Eliashib the high priest, was a son-in-law of Sanballat the Horonite. Therefore I drove him from me. Remember them, O my God, because they have defiled the priesthood and the covenant of the priesthood and the Levites. Thus I cleansed them of everything pagan. I also assigned duties to the priests and the Levites, each to his service, and to bringing the wood offering and the firstfruits at appointed times. Remember me, O my God, for good.